Hey everyone, I'm back with another card today using our amazing Gardenia stamp set. Now this is a 4x6 clear photopolymer set and I'll be doing some watercoloring, surprise. So I'm going to rose gold heat emboss this beautiful cluster image onto some watercolor paper. I'm using Canson XL 140-pound paper. After I've stamped the image in clear sticky embossing ink, I'm going to spoon on some of our rose gold embossing powder and hit the whole panel with my heat gun, melting all of that powder. Next, I'll be doing some wet and wet watercoloring. So I'm going to paint the area that I want to paint with some clean water first using a large tip brush, and then I'll add a little bit of watercolor into the inner corners of my petals. Then with a clean brush, I'll start pulling that color out towards the outer edges of the petals. And I'm going to create a nice, beautiful blend of color within each petal, and I'm going to apply the same technique to the entire floral. For my watercolors, I'm using Dr. P.H. Martin's Radiant Concentrated Watercolors. For the petals, I'm using persimmon. For the leaves, I'm using a combination of grass green and lemon yellow. And when I say combination, I don't mean I'm mixing the two colors and then applying it. I'm going to be adding the grass green first, and then I'll add the lemon yellow towards the tips of the leaves. All the watercolors that I'm using today come in a bundle and it's called Set A. So you can find all the colors in that one set, and I just got it on Amazon. So I'm going to finish painting my gardenia, this beautiful persimmon color. And when it dries, it does look a little bit more pink. I expected it to be a little bit more orange, but it is a little bit more pink with, I guess, a coral undertone, which is totally fine. I like how it came out in the end. But for today's card, I am creating a Thanksgiving card. Um, I'll be adding a couple of our autumn wishes leaf branches behind the gardenia cluster to turn this into a Thanksgiving card. So I'm actually really excited about this project because I basically turned this floral stamp into something that you can use for holiday or seasonal cards. So it's a great way to stretch your stamps, even though it is a floral, and I don't really think anyone has issues using their florals frequently because they're pretty much all occasion. But to use them in a holiday card or seasonal card, that's just a really great way to get more use out of your floral stamps. So after I finish painting the gardenia and fussy cutting it, I set it aside, and now I'm going to rose gold heat emboss this beautiful leaf branch cluster image from our autumn wishes set, and I'm going to emboss it twice. In addition to the leaf branch clusters, I'm going to also emboss the small bird stamps that also come in this set. And I'm really in love with this set. I think it was released last year, but I just really love it. It's so whimsical, it's adorable. You have these birds. I get a very Cinderella-like feel to the stamp. So I just love it. And I reach for it every season. So after I heat emboss all the images, I'm going to do some more wet and wet watercoloring, and I'm going to use the same colors that I used for the gardenia on my leaves. So I wet the leaves with clean water first, and then I applied some of the persimmon watercolor pigment in each leaf, and then I blended that color out. Then I also added some grass green to some of the leaves because I want it to look like a fall card, and nothing says fall like changing leaves. After I added the grass green, I saw that my leaves were really soft in color. To me, they looked a little washed out, too light. So I just wanted to actually go back and I added more concentrations of the persimmon because I really just like the vibrancy of colors in my projects. I don't really like that soft washed out look too much. So I did go back and I added more persimmon to each of the leaves to make the image pop just a little bit more. And it didn't take a long time to color this image because all of the leaves are pretty small, so it didn't take me any time at all. Once I finished painting the leaves, I just painted the branches using the saddle brown that comes in the set A. And I made sure to use a nice concentrated amount of watercolor paint for the branch because I wanted there to be more contrast between the branch or the branches and the leaves. After I finished painting this cluster, I went ahead and painted the second cluster on my panel using the same colors. And I did that off camera because I didn't think I needed to show it twice. So next I'm just going to start painting my birds, and I'm just using the paints that are in my ceramic palette. And all the paints that are on my palette are from the Dr. P.H. Martin's Set A bundle. I don't usually like to mix different paint companies in one palette. I like to stick to one. It's part of my OCD. So as I paint the birds, I applied either a pink or a blue paint. I am so sorry, I can't recall the exact paint name that I used for the birds, but I do remember that I used the saddle brown on each bird. It kind of ties it all in together, and um, but I did use the Dr. P.H. Martins. I just can't remember the exact shade of pink or blue that I used. So after I finish painting in all of the images, I'm going to take the coordinating dies and die cut everything. So I took the coordinating die and put the cut side down, and I used some Thermoweb purple tape to tape all the dies down. And then I'm going to use my Gemini Junior die cutting machine. And when I placed the panel into my die cutting sandwich, I made sure that the dies were cut side up. And then I ran the sandwich through my die cutting machine, and I did this a couple of times to make sure I die cut everything. Now I did emboss and paint some extra birds because when I'm working with such small elements like birds or leaves, I always stamp and color a few extra just in case I need it. And if I don't need it for the current project that I'm working on, then I can always use it as an embellishment for a future project. Next, I created a craft panel for the front of my card, and this one was 3.5 by 7 inches long. So my card today is a 5 by 7 card or a 7 by 5 card because it is a horizontal card. I took the wonderful wordplate die and die cut it into the craft panel, and then I heat embossed the "Have a" sentiment onto a piece of white cardstock, which is 7 by 5 inches, and I embossed this in our rose gold. The Have a sentiment is from our Seriously Amazing sentiment set, 6 by 8 set, and then the wonderful wordplate die is from our Bold Amazing Greetings wordplate die collection. So next I took this stamp from our Buildable Woodgrain layered stamp set, and I stamped it onto that craft piece of cardstock using our found Topaz Dye Ink just to add a little bit of texture and interest. Then I trimmed that white panel about 1/4 inch from the bottom, and then I adhered it onto a 7 by 5 brown top folding card base. Now I'm going to start assembling my card since all the elements are basically complete, but there is an added sentiment that I will add towards the end. So I'm going to just apply some adhesive behind that craft die cut panel and then adhere it right onto my card base. Next, I'm going to take all the letters that have those center pieces. So I'm going to put those letters back into the die cut areas, put those center pieces in with some adhesive, and then I'm going to carefully peel each of those die cut letters out. So the wonderful sentiment, I'm basically using the negative space of the die cut. For the actual die cut letters, I'll just set those aside for a future project. Now I'm going to start mounting my florals onto my card base. For the gardenia, I make sure to only put some dimensional tape towards the center of my gardenia because my leaf clusters, I'm going to tuck them in to each side of the gardenia. So if you have foam tape around the entire back of the gardenia, it's going to be hard to tuck and nestle the other elements. After I tucked in both clusters, I actually thought that the right cluster area kind of looked a little bare. So I cut off some of the leaf images from the base of each cluster and I actually added them to the right side of my card. And you couldn't even notice that any of the leaves were missing because the gardenia is so large, and this is just another way to get more use out of your images. If you remember earlier, I only applied foam tape to the center of the gardenia. So the leafy areas were coming up off the card. So I put some liquid adhesive behind the leaves and glued those down onto the branch clusters. Next, I adhered some of the birds all around my card using some dimensional foam squares. Then I heat embossed this banner from our basic banner set, and then I took the Happy Thanksgiving stamp from the add-on holiday sentiment set. This mini set actually coordinates with the banners because all those sentiments will fit in the banners from the basic banners. I took the Happy Thanksgiving, curved it on my acrylic block, and only embossed the Thanksgiving part. Once the embossing was complete, I die cut the banner using the coordinating die and then just mounted it to my card base. And my card is now complete. I hope you all enjoyed today's project and video. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel because I update it on a weekly basis. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.